Hey, what's up? It's Tony from Street Church, and welcome to the Inside Job. Hey, this is our second week of a 3-week series called A World of One Equals a World of None. Yeah, I think initially I said it was going to be a 2-week series, but this is super important, so I want to extend it to a 3-week series. So in the first week, we were talking about how, our culture, this world sort of gives birth to this world of one mentality inside of all of us, where we're so, overly self-consumed and self-concerned and self-absorbed that it hinders us from meeting needs around us. Hey, listen, there's so many needs around you, right? In your neighborhood, on your job, wherever you are, there are lonely people, hurting people. There, are people who are hurting emotionally, mentally, physically, in all sorts of ways. And we can't meet every need, and we're not supposed to try to meet every need. But there's some needs that we are strategically placed in the middle of in order to meet. And one of the biggest obstacles is this world of one mentality inside of us, right? It blocks us from meeting needs that we would otherwise meet. So this week, we're going to talk about something that I think is super important to sort of break in that cycle, right? Where we're able to meet needs and kind of break this mentality of this world of one mentality. So, So it's my experience that most people are like me, right? We tend to think a little bit too highly of ourselves than perhaps we ought to, right? And if you don't like that coming from me, that's exactly what the Apostle Paul wrote. He actually wrote, "Do not think too highly of yourselves than you ought to." That infers that people were thinking too highly of themselves. Most people think that has to take the form of, arrogance or pride or conceit, but, and it does, right? But it also takes the form of wallowing in your own self-pity or regret or guilt or self-hatred, right? Whenever you're thinking too highly of yourself, the bottom line is this: you're thinking of yourself way too much. And that in and of itself is a great obstacle to us meeting needs that we would otherwise want to meet and could meet, that are all around us, right? So I think what I'm going to share right now, is something that if we recognize, if we really embrace, it can help to get us out of that mindset. Okay. I love what James says in James chapter 4. I'm just going to read it to you real quick. He says, "Come now, you who say that today or tomorrow we will go into such and such a town and spend a year there and trade and make a profit, yet you do not know what tomorrow will even bring. What is your life? For you are a mist who appears for a little time and then vanishes." You are a mist that appears for a little time and then vanishes. Everyone's heard the saying, here today, gone tomorrow, right? But what this verse says is here today and gone by brunch. That's what the truth is, right? Like, we're here for like a brief amount of time and then we go, right? And so for me, one of the most important things I can remember to keep me in a place where I don't think about myself too highly than I ought to, I go back to September 10th, 1968. That may be one of the most important days that I need to remember in my life. So, whether it looks like it or not, I was born on September 11th, 1968, okay? The reason why September 10th, 1968 is so important to me and significant, is because it reminds me that on September 10th, 1968, the day before Tony Palumbo came into the planet Earth, God was doing just fine without me. Human beings were flourishing. They were getting married. They were loving each other. Their hearts were being changed. They were getting jobs. They were having families. The planet Earth was still orbiting the sun at 67,000 miles an hour on September 10th, 1968, the same way it did on September 11th, 1968. Right? With or without me. And it will do so on the day I leave. Right? For me, that's so important that I really internalize that truth and embrace it, because it keeps me in a place where I don't think about myself too highly than I ought to. And that intrinsically allows me to think about others as equally as valuable to me and perhaps more valuable, right? That intrinsically allows me to, remember that the reason why I'm here is to serve others. That my greatest meaning and value and purpose is when I empty my life out in service to others, right? And again, we're not here and we're not able to meet every need, but there's certainly some around you right now that you are strategically placed in the middle of in order to meet. And what needs to happen is that we need to break this ground inside of our minds, this world of one mentality ground. And remembering the day before you were born that God was just doing fine without you will help you not to have an inflated opinion of yourself. So, one for the road. Remember that on the day before you were born, the planet Earth was still orbiting the sun at 67,000 miles an hour at 18.1 mile every second. Amen? All right. Week 3, I think in week 3 we are going to talk about the most important thing, I think, that can break up this mindset, this world of one mindset, and allow us to meet the needs around us that we were created to meet. Amen? All right. Until then, have a great week.